What's up, everybody? My name is Jason, and welcome to the $10,000 EIDL grant stimulus update. $271 billion unspent at the SBA. It is Tuesday, March the 23rd, 2021. Please do me a huge favor. Give this video a thumbs up, hashtag EIDL in your comments below, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter at RemoteOnline, at RemoteOnline on Twitter. I'm about to show you something that is pinned in the top comment on Twitter. I need everybody watching me right now to retweet it, like it, and of course, add your 2 cents, because after I share this 3 or 4 minute video with you, and some of you have seen it, it's going to make you want to puke. You might want to throw your computer and or your phone out the window. But I need every single one of you right now to tell me how you feel in the comments below. And then when the video is over, you got to go to Twitter and you got to retweet it, because I've tagged the usual suspects. Miss Isabel Guzman, current head of the SBA, sworn in yesterday, got a big meeting with women of small business on Thursday. Big Ben Cardin hosting a major Senate committee meeting tomorrow about fraud from last year. Jackie Rosen, John Cornyn, Chucky Schumer, Nydia Velázquez, Maria Salazar, and of course Karen Mills, who was the former head of the SBA under the Obama/Biden administration. Those 7 or 8 people are going to be responsible for getting the caps removed on the loan. More on that in a second. Getting you $10,000 of the balance thereof, regardless of size or location, and the loan ultimately through Big Ben Cardin at some point before payments are due a year from now. Totally forgiven, so you never pay the SBA a dime. But I must confess before we start, by the way, pull up a chair, grab a water, ice cold beer, whiskey. I would love one of those on a big fat rock. Here we go. I've done 4 versions of this video. I've never done an edit, not one time, not on LinkedIn, 60 million views, not on YouTube, closing in on 4 million views. I've never edited a single thing. It's all on my iPhone, and when I have to do a screen share, I pull in one of my trusty little laptops. But I've done 4 versions of this because I got so worked up in the prior 3 that I said, there's just no way you guys are going to share it. The last one had no shit, about 15 F-bombs, and I got so mad in the second half thinking about what the SBA may be doing to you right now, in fact, largely because of the prior administration, I just couldn't contain myself. So I'm going to try to get through this. But if you're as furious as I am, or disgusted, or all the above, I need to hear from you in the comments. I want you to watch what I'm about to show you and tell me what you think of it. And let both barrels go, because I'm going to share this video with all 7 people that I keep mentioning that I'm talking to on Twitter. They need to know how you feel. And then again, go to Twitter at RemoteOnline and retweet this, like it, and tell us what you think over there as well. Let me set the stage before I play it. Last June the 10th, there was a Senate hearing that I watched where Miss Javita Carranza, former head of the SBA, was in a tussle, actually like this, with Big Ben Cardin, someone I greatly admire. Again, wants to wipe out the EIDL loan so you never pay the SBA a dime with respect to the loan. More on the caps in a second. But he was asking her, Janita, who gave you authorization to ration the grant at $1,000 per employee? Who told you to cap the loans at $150,000 when they were supposed to be at $2 million? You're also about to see Jackie Rosen say the same thing, and she had nothing to say other than, well, we had $5 million in the idle queue. Settle down, Jason. Settle down. That woman, in my opinion, is responsible for the destruction of millions of small business owners, sole props, independent contractors, and side hustlers who deserve $10,000 of the balance thereof, removal of the damn loan caps, and the loan forgiven altogether. But thankfully, we have a new head of the SBA that was sworn in, Miss Isabel Guzman, who, from by all accounts, is salt of the earth. And I've been tweeting back and forth again with her today. I have big expectations, high hopes for this woman. But I'm going to show you something that is going to get your blood boiling. But keep this in mind before I do. $350 billion was appropriated last April to the SBA for the EIDL program. If you go to SBA.gov, you can get the monthly payouts on the loans. $201 billion, let's call it $200 billion, has been loaned out to 3.7 million small business owners. 5.7 million got a grant at $1,000 per employee. So you had $200 billion loaned out in loans $20 billion in the old EIDL advance. I'm not talking about the new targeted. Set that to the side. So we loaned out $200 billion. We gave away $20 billion in grants. So if you take $350 billion, which came out in that meeting, minus $220, I thought, and I've said this numerous times, there's about $130 billion left over, right? Which is why I told President Trump on multiple occasions, I even had a video entitled Executive Order. Pull $30 billion or thereabouts out of that $130 billion pile. Never got a response. I've told Joe Biden now. This will be the third time. Joe Biden, President Biden, Mr. Middle Class, move $30 billion out of that 130, or is it $271 billion pile for the SBA and put it in the grant pile. We already have $35 billion for low-income communities, right? $30 billion in Section 331 for the targeted EIDL advance. And now we know about the $5,000 supplemental that has $5 billion in funding. So if we have $35 billion-ish for low-income communities and you add another $30 billion for the EIDL advance, Section 332 for middle and high income, $65 billion or thereabouts for the grant money would be more than enough to get everybody 10 grand or the balance thereof at a minimum, and quite possibly 15 at least if you're in a low-income community. So far, I haven't heard anything back from Middle Class Joe or anybody in his establishment, but it's not for a lack of trying, both here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. But keep this in mind as you watch this. There is an investigative reporter. So I'm on record of saying I think there's at least $130 billion of unspent EIDL money. This guy says $271 billion and change. And he claims to have talked to the SBA. So I asked him last night, or I had somebody ask him on Twitter, who's your source? Give us the name. We won't share it. Haven't gotten an answer to that question yet, but you watch this. It may, in fact, take this, right? Is Don Lemon, is that how we pronounce it, Don? Is it Lemon or Lemon? You think he at CNN, the fake news, is ever going to come out and bury Joe Biden's administration and Miss Isabel Guzman? Not a chance in hell. It might just take an investigative reporter, of all things, out of a station in Idaho, although the report is done in Washington, D.C., to break this thing wide open. Because as I just said, we've got a meeting tomorrow with Ben Cardin. Settle down, Jason. Settle down. We got a meeting tomorrow with Ben Cardin. They're going to talk about fraud, but everything from loan caps to EIDL grants is going to come up. Then Miss Isabel Guzman is going to introduce herself to the women of small business. You can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to say, what are we doing about the caps? Again, you're going to hear something in a second that's rather interesting. What are we doing about getting everybody loans, grants, whether it's 10 or 15,000, regardless of size or location? It's going to come up in the next 48 hours, which is why you got to comment below, because I'm sending a copy to everybody, and you got to retweet at Remote Online on Twitter. All right, without further ado, I want you to watch this with an open mind, and then stick around and allow me to summarize what you just saw. This is a brewery, a small business of a larger sort, that was capped at $150,000 instead of the $2 million. And it nearly destroyed him, along with millions of others. But wait till you see some of these numbers, and you decide if this guy's telling the truth or not.
Beer stopped flowing at Atlas Brew Works in Washington when the pandemic hit.
Our business fell by more than half, almost overnight.
Closed during lockdown, then partially reopened with indoor dining restrictions. For his brewery to survive, Justin Cox needed cash, and traditional loans weren't an option.
Banks just stopped making loans, especially to people in kind of the food and beverage industry.
So he went to the federal government, the Small Business Administration, for what's known as an economic injury disaster loan. But he was disappointed to learn, unlike other disasters where you could borrow up to $2 million, the SBA last April cut off COVID-19 loans at $150,000. That's all from this program he could get.
So it certainly was not nearly enough, and for our business and a lot of other small businesses, but something is better than nothing.
We found Atlas was not the only business to max out at a $150,000 loan. Our data team sifted through records from the SBA and discovered 567,000 businesses nationwide were like Atlas, maxing out at that $150,000 loan limit. all unable to borrow a penny more from that lifeline.
Why has the SBA placed that $150,000 borrowing limit?
The SBA administrator at the time under President Trump told senators the cap was necessary to fan out loans quickly to as many places as possible.
We had over 5 million applications in the queue.
Yet now we've confirmed the program is running a massive surplus, $271 billion unspent,
What?
not lent. And that was before Congress injected another $15 billion from the new stimulus law.
Raise your right hand.
The SBA, with a brand new administrator, is currently re-examining the $150,000 loan maximum. A decision on whether to lift the cap has been made, the SBA tells us, with an announcement coming before the end of the month.
This is our brewery.
Atlas also received funds from the SBA's Paycheck Protection Program, but could still use a bigger disaster loan.
If the SBA was to expand the program, we absolutely would go back to them.
Money to buy more aluminum to can his beer, and to staff up ahead of what he hopes will be a full reopening
I'm feeling optimistic, but we're still not there.
and recovery. Patrick Terpstra, Newsy, Washington.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you may have heard at the end. A decision has been made to remove the loan caps. Now, is Miss Isabel Guzman, who I told you the other day is the new sheriff in town, is she going to make a major splash in a good way by coming in front of the cameras? I don't know, maybe Thursday when she introduces herself to the women of small business and say, well, I just thought I'd stop by and say we're never going to remove the loan caps. If you've been in this grind, in this battle, in this war for 12 months, you're about to hear in the next, let's call it 72 hours-ish, if they're going to remove the loan caps. And it's my personal opinion, they're going away. And I believe it's going to open the door for another 6 months of working capital, which a guy like this, who's running a brewery, needs more money, upwards of $2 million, not to be capped at $150,000. So, even though this makes my blood boil, that there's over 500,000 small businesses, according to this investigative reporter, that got stifled on $150,000, and goodness knows, probably a third of them are out of business at this point. Whether we have $130 billion, my heart is pounding because I just want to go nuts right now. Whether we have $130 billion, Miss Isabel Guzman, or $271 billion, far in excess of what we ever imagined possible, because you'll notice he said that was before $15 billion for the targeted EIDL advance. And then he transitions to PPP, because I said to friends of mine last night when I saw this, I said, well, I always thought there was $130 billion of unspent EIDL. I've said that a million times. Loan money. Move some of that over into the grant pile. Executive order, discretion, call it what you will. So far, nothing's happened on that end. But now we learn there's $271 billion. Well, it's possible that that gap is PPP, but then he says, no, that was separate. And if you look at the graphics of the video, it's EIDL. So I don't know what the truth is. How about an LA lady, Max Maher, a writer over at Skip, somebody, Speak and See, somebody who wants to dig into some dirt, follow this guy on Twitter and get him to talk to you. We've asked him. So far, he's not telling us who the source is. But he's putting himself on national television. And wouldn't it be funny that it's an investigative reporter out of all places, Idaho, that ends up blowing this thing wide open as the new head of the SBA steps in again. Isabel, I have such high hopes for you. Everything you say, from the way you present yourself to former colleagues, to your boss, Karen Mills, is cream of the crop. But I'm telling you right now, whether it's $130 billion or $271 billion that's unspent, for the love of God Almighty himself, we have to put an end to this madness. In case you haven't heard me for the last 12 months, it's $10,000 regardless of size or the location. It's to remove the damn caps and put them back at $2 million where they belong. And I'm with Big Ben Cardin, chairman of the Senate committee, who has a meeting tomorrow about all the fraud from last year. I want the EIDL loan by this time next year, when payments become due, wiped out, so that nobody watching me right now, including about 9 million in the queue, ever pays the SBA a single dime with respect to the EIDL loan program. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a walk around the block, maybe two. Always remember, I love each and every single one of you, and thank you so much for watching.